Gaelic Estelfa, everybody. I had somebody reach out to me 5 days ago asking me to justify my pricing. I didn't see any mention of any connection to any community in their social media. I don't want to jump to any assumptions, so I'll just go through it. In February, I quit my job to work on this, and I had about $50,000 saved up. So I took that, and I made the prototype of the card game, and I demoed it for some schools, and the response was good. But as good as the response was, the communities and schools didn't want that many. They only wanted a couple. And so I tried going to the bank. This is a newer one, but the response has been the same for pretty much every bank. They take one look at my finances and they just ghost me. So when they ghosted me, I tried calling around to a bunch of people and then didn't get a response, and then did the road trip. I've mentioned that before. And I just talked to as many people as I could, trying to get some orders. And then towards the end of the trip, by the third week of July, I had run out of money. And it's at $110 left and $170 on my Visa. I took the screenshot because it was the first time that I had run out of money. And I had to consider going back to welding because I wasn't sure if it was going to work. But I decided to double down, and then for all of August and all of September, just push really hard on sales and just spend all day, every day, sending out emails and talking to people, except for when I went to Bears Lair. And so now, as it stands, I have $500 in the bank. This is where I'm at right now. $1,000 on my credit card, $10,000 on my line of credit. My business bank account has 10 grand in the bank, but I have an $8,000 expense coming up before the end of the year to make sure that the pens are safe for everybody, and that's not including doing my taxes and stuff like that. And so to date, my company has taken in $57,000 in pre-orders, plus my $50,000 money that I had saved up and my $10,000 line of credit. That means that I have $117,000 into this, but I still have 10 grand in the bank. So I've spent $107,000 so far on this since February, and I still have an $8,000 expense coming up. So by the end of the year, I'll have spent $115,000 on this, $2,000 left in my business bank account, and $10,000 or $11,000 in debt in my personal account. And the way that economies of scales work is, with that $115,000, if I had ordered 1,000 pens, the cost per pen would be $115 just for regular operating and covering all of that, the vendor tables, all the marketing materials, whatever. But I wasn't able to put in 1,000 unit order because I couldn't get a business loan, because it's really hard for Indigenous people to get business loans. And so I have a 500 unit order in. And so that cost $115,000 per 500 pens is $230 a pen. And so when I was thinking about pricing, I deliberated on it a lot. And I had to ask myself, do I think that $300, do I think that someone's going to get enough value to equal $300 with the pens? And I came to, I think so. I think the ability to have your language in your hand, if you don't have access to a fluent speaker or in the classroom, I think that's worth less than $1 a day. And it's obviously not my long-term goal to have it at that price, but for me to be able to afford this year's order, hopefully put in a bigger order next year so that I can benefit from some of that economies of scale. Because if I had ordered 2,000 pens, that $115,000 would be $60 a pen rather than $115. And then still be able to afford marketing materials next year and vendor tables and more road trips to go talk to more communities and hopefully hire some help so that I can actually get a day off. Because this whole year has just been working every weekend and every holiday and every evening. The only real weekend that I've taken off was to go up to Appalach. Yeah. And that's like family obligations. And because I was so worried about not being able to get this done, I didn't even pay myself for most of the year. I just lived off my own personal savings and then lived off my line of credit. So even into September, beginning of September, I put my order in, and September was a good year for order, or a good month for orders, so I paid myself $2,000. October, I paid myself $2,000. November, I paid myself $3,000, and then December, I paid myself $4,000, and all of that payment was just so that I wouldn't have to live on my line of credit. So from February to December, 11 months, I paid myself a total of $11,000. So yeah, Mr. Justify your pricing. This is how I've justified it. My hope isn't to have this price forever, but things are really expensive when you're a small business and you're trying to get something off the ground, something that only you can see. My hope is to get this into every Indigenous community in the country. There's something like 600 Indigenous communities across the country, but there are a lot of Indigenous people who are really wary when people from outside their community come in and just like, hey, I want to do stuff with your language, and like for good reason. There's a long history of people coming in and messing around with Indigenous people's languages, and so regardless of how remote the community is or how few people live there, I will go out there as many times as I need to for people to listen to me, take a shot at me. I don't know. Yeah, and so while I'm getting there, I'm going to need help, and I need to pay for all these bills and stuff. So anyway, there's my justification. There's all my finances. So whoever you are who like asked me, whenever you want to take your turn, open up your finances and show what you've done for Indigenous communities and how much money you've made from them and what you've done with it and what you've given back. I'd love to see it. So there. Ball's in your court whenever you get a chance.